Good morning, everyone. Good morning, panelists. I, Vidya Shankar, on the behalf of Corporate Interaction Division of Ford School of Management, takes immense pleasure in welcoming you all to the CHRO Insights 2024 Leaders of 2023 in collaboration with People Business Consulting. People Business Consulting was established in the year of 2003 with the purpose of transforming organizations and impacting individuals. People Business specializes in empowering leaders in organizations to unlock their full potential. We proudly commence their events with distinct corporates from global companies across diverse industries. Through their experience, knowledge, and expertise, our honored guests have a profound impact on helping the students delve deep into the domains and derive valuable information and insights. I will move ahead by inviting the panelists for today. First, we have Mr. Muzarat Hussain, who is the head of human resources at Suzuki R&D Center India Private Limited. With over 30 years of experience in HR strategy, HR transformation, and change management, board, and CXO management, Mr. Hussain has been recognized as the 20 most impactful HR leaders at the CHRO Vision and Innovation Summit and Awards 2022. Then we have Mr. Kaushik Chakraborty, who's the Chief People Officer at Savills India. With over 30 years of experience in talent management strategy and HR operation, Mr. Chakraborty has been known for his career for creating great places to work. He's passionate about the leadership development, coaching, and human space architecture, and has been named as the top 10 thinkers by the MTC Global in 2014. Then we have Mr. Deepak Dobriyal, who is a Senior Vice President at Global Leaders Talent Management and Corporate HR at BirlaSoft. Mr. Dobriyal has over 26 years of experience in M&A integration, performance management, and business HR. He's passionate about creating positive and engaging work environment where employees can thrive and grow, and has successfully executed several M&A projects, enhancing the integration and retention of talents across regions and culture. Then we have Ms. Dolly Grover, who is the Chief Human Resource Officer at Chris Digital Private Limited. With over 32 years of experience in succession planning, labor and employment law, and change management, Ms. Grover has worked in diverse industries such as telecommunication, food, beverages, IT, and paper industry. Then we have Ms. Amla Avasthi, who is the head human resource at Blackberry's Menwear. With over 21 years of experience in developing and implementing innovative HR strategies, Ms. Avasthi is passionate about creating a culture of learning and excellence that empowers employees and drive business outcomes. Her areas of expertise include HR strategy, planning, learning and development, compensation and benefits, and employee relations. Last but not least, we have Mr. Rahul Mahajan, who is the director and partner at People Business Consulting. Mr. Mahajan has over 12 years of experience in crafting leadership programs. His areas of expertise include HR consulting, leadership development, and business development. Once again, we welcome you all. Now, without further ado, I would like to hand over the proceedings to our panelists, and Mr. Rahul would be moderating the session. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Vidya. I think that thanks for a very warm welcome. Thank you again, panelists, for coming here and being with us. Good morning to everyone. Yeah, let's do it with a little bit more energy. Good morning, everyone. Wow. Such a pleasure being here today among the leaders of tomorrow. Today, what we're going to do is we're going to have hopefully a very insightful discussion with, the HR leaders of our country on how leadership is evolving in this fast-paced, ever-changing world. Yeah. The topic that we have today is called Leader 2030. Yeah. We're going to talk about how societal challenges are emerging, how geopolitical challenges are emerging, how business challenges are emerging, right? We're going to talk about, hence, how will organizations of the future be structured? How will AI, which is just coming along in our lives impact the organizations? And eventually, we're going to talk about how leaders come into this picture. What would be the key skills required of you all as leaders of the future? Yeah. What we're hoping that you guys take away from this session is how this, or some of the insights that the leaders offer today, how will it help you not only survive but thrive for becoming the leader of the future? Yeah. With that, I'm just going to come here, sit here, and we're going to open up this discussion. I also want to bring again, I think it was a very nice introduction by Vidya. We've got panelists from different sectors. So today, what we're going to do here is we're going to ask all these panelists, exploit them as much as we can, yeah, in terms of their knowledge on different sectors. We've got veterans in the space of auto industry, in the space of IT, in retail, in telecom, in real estate. So we've got a mix of all, right? So we're going to discuss these challenges with a point of view from these leaders on their own industries as well. Yeah, let's begin. Right. Can we move to the next slide? So that's the first theme, leaders. What are the key geopolitical challenges that you see emerging? What are some societal challenges that you see, and trends, not only challenges that you see emerging? And in your own sectors, in your own business, what do you see emerging? And we'll start from there. And Dolly, would you like to start? Thank you.
Can you hear me? Good morning. I think such a good crowd sitting here. Just once again, a good morning, a little louder. So you're all awake. So, okay, good. So you all are awake. So you'll start with the session. So in terms of the question itself, geopolitical, societal, and business trends, I think it's a very varied question in itself. So to my mind, I think geopolitical largely would consist of, the countries itself, the power dynamics, Indochina, the US, the way they are running their elections between Republicans and Democrats, the whole Ukraine war. I mean, so there are too many things in the geopolitical arena which will actually create a lot of volatility in the environment. Volatility in the environment and for the companies itself, especially the companies which are global, which are working in different countries. These kind of power dynamics definitely impact the companies itself. There's a lot of insecurity itself, whether the business would run, whether I can do my exports or imports, whichever. So I think that's something which I can think of as the first thing, because even Bangladesh itself, I think there are too many countries which are facing challenges now. So even in our neighbors, there's that is a very big ticket item, and I don't even know how since it's beyond our control, so I don't even know how much we can control it. So this is the larger thing. The other thing could be the climate itself, the environment. Everyone talks about environment, security, governance. These three things which each country needs to look at, which each company needs to look at. ESG becomes a big agenda for the company itself, as in carbon footprint or whatever. So as we look at our company, so I don't know how many know about Fresh Digital, but we are a telecom infra company. We provide telecom infra, which means that so even if this is a space, we provide the in-building solution so that you can connect your mobiles. So that's the connectivity solution which we provide. It is called in-building solutions. It's called small cell solutions, which you've seen small poles over the houses rooftop. That provides the connectivity. That is the work which we do as a company. So if you look at metros, Delhi Metro, Tamil Nadu, Chennai Metro, Pune Metro, Ahmedabad Metro, we have a lot of stations where we do. We have Atal Tunnel where we provide connectivity. We did G20, we did Parliament building. A lot of hotels are with us, hospitals are with us. I think most of all the aims are with us for the connectivity. So that's the kind of connectivity solutions we provide. If you look at from our perspective, ESG becomes a big agenda because since we provide towers, the whole decarbonization becomes the agenda. I mean, if you understand what I'm trying to say, I'm just trying to link it with the experience of what I've seen happening in our company, in the telecom sector specifically. So if you look at our small cell solution, we provided it with batteries. So batteries are, they don't have, they're not diesel. So if you look at towers, they are with diesel because the connectivity comes like that. So it's with our, it's with batteries. So we are actually a good company with no carbon footprint actually. That becomes our ESG agenda. So ESG becomes a big ticket item in which I understand. If, what my thought is that there's that.
Yeah, this is a fairly loaded question. I know, each one of us can talk half an hour about all of this, but geopolitics, especially, I come from a technology company. Most of our clientele is outside India. So it's truly the business is global. And so geopolitics today impacts business all the more, and it's increasing. Uh, I think if you look at broad geopolitical trends, uh, clearly there's one secular trend that you will see that uh, the days of one hegemonic superpower is going down, right? So now you have multiple power centers, and as Mr. Jaishankar typically calls, it's a multipolar world, right? Which means there's no one big boss who can ask the others to keep shut, which is likely to increase more conflicts. And you can already see that happening in Ukraine. You can see that happening in Palestine, the Hamas, and there's nobody who can put an end to this, right? So that's a clear one geopolitical trend that you're seeing. The other trend that you can clearly see is this conflict between US and China to gain the upper hand on the other, right? And this will manifest not just politically, it will also manifest in terms of business. And I'm sure many of you have heard uh, the concept of friendshoring and so on and so forth, which is also a manifestation of that rivalry that's happening between these two people, right? Uh, the third is very clearly what's happening in Africa is very, very surprising. Today, if you look at the rate of growth in terms of economy, while we may say India is one of the fastest growing large economies, but the amount of growth that you're seeing in some of the African economies is far greater in terms of percentage, right? So that's a continent which clearly has not arrived on the stage. So the next continent which has to arrive after Asia is, logically Africa. So a lot of large corporations are talking about how do you get that market? How do you understand that market? So that's the third broad geopolitical trend that businesses will have to look at. And as Dolly clearly said, climate change and ESG is going to be a big agenda. It's not just it's a it's a business agenda today. It's no longer some good, touchy-feely kind of agenda, which was good to mouth, but very little action was done. But today, I think CEOs are being forced by not just their peer companies, but various pressure groups to have a strategy for climate control, right? So these are four broad trends that you can see in terms of geopolitics, and they're very, very intricately intertwined with the business environment also. And changes here will impact. So more conflicts means that you have to have a very nimble and agile strategy. You can't afford to overinvest in one place and get hit by some conflict. And, the mud touted black swan events are happening almost very, very frequently. Nobody predicted any of these things, right? And even small companies, I'm sure you would have seen what happened with CrowdStrike, right? And so the whole Windows ecosystem globally went down by just one security patch that kind of disrupted that. So business can actually get disrupted today by anybody and everybody. It's become so porous. And technology is really at the heart of it because everybody's on technology today, right? So I think these are some geopolitical trends that people who are devising their business strategies have to be sensitive about.
Yeah. I think just to add to, what we just heard, this is a very interesting world we all are living in. I mean, if you really think of it very deeply, as we speak, there are two major wars going on. when was the last time in the world we have seen that we are peacefully sitting, having this conversation, when including a superpower is fully engaged in a war? So that's the geopolitical scenario that we are into. Now, any such scenarios, now, for example, I think as a student, uh, you really need to look into very deeply. This question has a lot of meaning from a student perspective, from a professional perspective, both. Uh, Say, if I may ask, now you have a Ukraine-Russia war, which is going on, right? One is, we saw how India reacted. They didn't get trapped into, the whole taking a debt and, trying to finance their fuel needs. Okay, they played it very independently, very differently. That really worked for us. The economy, was not really affected by this war to a very large extent. But if you see every such war, for example, if I may ask, any of you know uh, Ukraine is largest producer of what in the world? Or, which is the industry that may get affected by uh, Ukraine? I'm sure many of you, or most of you will not even know, no, none of you probably know, otherwise I would have seen a hand. Okay, was that here? Fine.
Hear you.
I think it would impact the natural oil or the gas industry.
Which industry?
Natural oil or gas.
That's there. That's the overall piece which is there because of Ukraine. But I think the most impactful thing is the ceramic industry. So Ukraine is one of the largest contributor to the ceramic industry. Now, what I'm trying to say is that there are opportunities. For example, certainly there's a lot of emergence of this industry in India because people try to address that. So that is how the balance happens. The other interesting part is another 6 months down the line, this war will not remain. Tell me why? Because nobody is going to fund Ukraine. If Trump comes into power, he's not going to fund the war anymore. Zelensky will not be able to survive the scenario. And obviously, he has already started. I think the last statement 2 days back was that he is looking at a peaceful solution to the war. So that's the trends, which is happening. Now, all of it has an impact. Now, how does it happen? Now, we all were thinking about with the war and all, there is a US recession. I mean, none of you probably realize, or maybe, most of you know, there's a direct impact of the US economy on India. Today also is the largest economy. So whether it's the IT industry, whether it is the kind of industry that I'm in, which is the real estate consulting space, where, for example, we are into one of our big businesses, all the leasing of the offices, the cyber cities of the world that you see. Most of these big brands you will see are mostly US centric brands, and the number of million square feet that gets added every year is a reflection of the economy and is also a reflection of how the US economy is behaving. This year, starting this year, the projection was that it will hover around 35 to 40. Now, this is a direct relationship with the economy because you take more offices when the economy is growing at a particular rate. Now, this is how the correlation works. Now the projection is it will reach somewhere around 58 million square feet, which is one of the highest even from a pre-COVID standard. Now, that is where the changes are, which means that in spite of all the conversations around, your work from home, half of the population are shifting to not working from their office. There's a US recession, which is, happening. The world economy is under tremendous pressure. The fact remains, really if you see the stock market in US, if you see the number of million square feet getting added, it is not really happening. Okay, to the extent that, the geopolitical scenario reflected initially. So I'm just saying that, this is how you need to, one of the key impact of the geopolitical scenario, if any of you know, is in years to come in next, and it may happen very quickly, is the de-dollarization. Okay, so that's another thing that people are talking about, right? And that's going to have a huge impact on, and this is also something to do with geopolitical scenario. The power of US, the supreme power of US is not there. China tried to take that position. it's continuously there. Somebody spoke about the emergence of India and China. For example, we as an organization, we are a 170-year-old organization which came into India only 5 years back. Now, in APAC, in Asia, and this thing, China had one of the highest, uh, market share in Asia for us, and even globally also. I mean, and the Chinese business started well. As an organization, they normally look at inorganic growth. They take over a company and then they enter a country that they couldn't find in India. So they took a little bit of time. But one of the key reasons why this investment happened, as soon as the real estate segment, if you know, opened up 6 years back for foreign investment fully. Now, one of the first investment was our organization, but then it is to do with the geopolitical scenario where you wanted to de-risk the, what China brings in. Somewhere if you really look at it, you can't have a global organization in a growing sector like ours where you don't have presence of India. So, and it will always create a balance of, power between India and China. So that's the way organization also takes decision looking into the geopolitical scenario. So I'm just going to take a few examples so that you get some insight and some practical ideas in terms of how, the corporate decisions get governed by, the geopolitical scenario, and we can go further as we take this conversation.
Thank you. I would want to add a couple of points, not much. So wherever there are challenges, there are opportunities, right? You need to see what is the outlook that you are carrying as the young leaders, because you're the future. You're the future of the organizations. You're going to the future of the country. Many of you may be leading certain initiatives, which would be currently as considered part of challenges, but the answer lies within us. Ours is an industry which is into fashion apparel, and when we talk about a lot of geopolitical challenges that are coming is how to save our environment. And there are many such campaigns which are running. There are many factories, many industries which are bypassing the rule which talks about saving our own earth, saving our own environment. When you go, you buy a cloth, right? You don't see what is the effort that's going behind to make that one particular product which is there in the market right now. And there are many such steps which are taken in terms of sustainability. So it is you and it is us who have to ensure that how do we control this as a challenge wherein it mitigates and comes as a resolution to each one of us. And not to ignore that these challenges have certain impact in our own lives as well. For example, I still remember there were times when we used to carry a lot of plastics. You carry food in plastic utensils. But I think today's awareness has gone completely different. And I have seen many young chaps like you guys who have started even questioning certain places that why are you using polythene? Why can't you use paper bags? But paper bag also has an impact. There are a lot of trees which are getting cut. How do we save to it? But all I'm trying to say is this awareness, the steps that are there for measures, that is at most important. And even a single step taken by you will definitely change the mindset of anything which is going globally. But those initiatives have to be taken ahead. Those policies, procedures, changes in lifestyle, changes in the dynamics that we are living in, that needs adaptability and change in self. That's more important.
So much has been said about topic of geopolitical and all. But I represent auto industry and perhaps from decades we have been seeing the impact coming on our industry. But just to come to that, one of the biggest impactor that we see for our industry and economy as such is the oil. So if there is any Gulf War, if there is any, issues happening in the, like India is importing from Russia now, you know that. And the cost of oil as such, they used to call petrodollars, they have created havoc all over the world. And today and tomorrow also, as we see, though country is trying to go electric, zero tailpipe emission, but dependence on oil for industries at large, not only automobile, is going to stay, and that is going to play a major geopolitical, role globally. So anything happening anywhere in the world, oil is the, first thing which is to be seen, because the entire economy industry runs on that. Second thing is, of course, the currency fluctuation, which keeps happening. Any change in dollar, yen, or euro, it's going to impact the trade imbalance, in the sense that the industry, even if I take auto or many other industry, is import dependent still. And as we have seen currently in the Ukraine war, or the war in Israel and all, the logistics shipping have been impacted, leading to, the disrupted productions, disrupted supply chain. All this is very critical, because, anything happening anywhere in the world is one. It's not that we not be impacted. So this is very, very critical, and rightly said, this Ukraine war and change. These are all going to impact. And look at China, for example. China is one of the, largest exporter worldwide. Whereas, or even India, let me tell you, we have a bad relation with China, but most of the industry is actually dependent on China. And look at the, trade imbalance with China. So we keep saying that, but there is a huge, huge dependency on China. When to the extent that if we are going for electric vehicle, the entire technology, they are largest and biggest in the world. We talk about lithium, that also comes from China. All the companies which are producing, assembling, like EV cells, are actually imported from China. So, any disruption or anything happening on the border or anything is going to actually disrupt the whole economy. Like, for example, during pandemic, we saw the automobile industry badly impacted because of the, challenge in getting microchip and, all those. What happened, Taiwan and all those diverted their entire chip to mobile industry, the computer industry. So, what happens, anything happening anywhere in the world, it's going to impact. So we saw shortage of chip, which has now been largely marginalized, but still miles to go. And many components, in fact, if there is a slightest change in the metal market, right, that is going to impact the price of the vehicle. What happens is that Indian market is very price sensitive. So slightest increase in the cost of the price, cost and of the vehicle, it impacts the sale. So people are very, very cost conscious in India. So anything happening anywhere in the world, and there are many markers. I'm not talking about just currency or political scenario. There are many other scenarios happening. In fact, even the piracy happening in the Arabian Sea impact the supply. That's the challenge. And the government are actually working on that. But coming to other societal and other challenges, what we are seeing, India is a young population. The average age is much lower. But when you look at global, like say Japan, or the average age or demographic trend is very different. There is the aging population. So that's the advantage we have, China has. And that is what 2030, what I believe, and what is the prediction is that India is going to become 5 trillion economy and so on and so forth. So there is a positive sign, and India has that advantage. So what we see is that even when I talk about automotive, we are world number 4 in passenger car. China is world number one. But when I look at the car per capita in India, which is how many people own a car per 1,000 people, anybody will talk about it? Any guess? Out of 1,000 people in India, how many will own a car? You see so much of traffic. Please guess. Please guess. There is no negative mark. We are not taking an exam. Just a guess. Simple. 50, 53. Very good. Come up with a very unique number. Yes. 20. Okay. Anybody else? 40, 60. 400. Above 40% means 400 people will be owning a car. इतनी ट्रैफिक जैम है दिल्ली में, क्या बात कर रहे हो यार? बताओ बताओ, सोचो थोड़ा, गेस करो. हाँ, 700. Very good. Wow, 700 people in India own a car. What is the population of India? Anyway, please don't waste time. Let me tell you, the car per capita in India is only 24. So only 24 people, he was close 20. Only 24 people own a car. China with world number one is less than 100. They are around 93, 94. So it's a good news for us. It's a good news. The lower we are, the better, because we have opportunity for growth. And that is why Tesla is also coming into India. So the opportunity lies more in India compared to many other countries. Yes, there are some European countries which are actually 700, but now they have gone back to cycle. Nobody takes out a car. So idea is that 2030, as far as business is concerned, India is poised for a huge, huge growth. And this automotive sector, in fact, in terms of not only employment, like 35, 36 million people work here, by 2030, we expect more than 60 million people. So more job opportunities coming in this sector. So this is for us a good news. What we see by 2030 and the way things are moving as far as business is concerned, this is the place where India may become world number 3 or world number 2. Though we have to catch up a lot in the, but when I talk about other challenges or other business, especially our industry is concerned, there is a huge disruption which is happening in this. We don't know. I mean, today we are gasoline, we are talking about hydrogen, EV already you see on road. You may have a flying car or a drone car, you never know. This sector is going for a major, major disruption. I sometimes wonder that auto industry should not become like a typewriter industry. And how many of you know about typewriter? Have you heard about typewriter? You know what is a typewriter? Okay, so when typewriter suddenly vanished because computer came in, so nobody, even, I mean, they will not even think of having, because I remember my first TV was a typewriter. Then came electronic typewriter. And then computer came in 90s. And that's how we have evolved a lot. So disruption, the automotive industry, I really don't know. I keep reading and hearing about these things. So talk about emerging challenges. We may talk about good things, but the technology or there could be a total disruption at all. That is one. But then I look at it, there are, of course, technology I have talked about. Business model itself is changing. The biggest challenge is the change in the business model. And then, of course, the buying behaviors. The buying behaviors of people are changing. The behaviors are changing. So what is happening is that there is the new generation, your generation, Gen Z, which is actually changing the game itself. So what I see that this is a very pertinent question, and there is going to be a lot of changes in the way we work, the way we behave. In fact, even in terms of when we talk about challenges, is that whether the fixed workforce is going to remain or not. The trend today is moving towards gig. So people are talking about, 5 day, 4 day week. They're talking about 3 day week happening in Europe. So are we going to sustain that? I don't know by next 2030 or in that era, what kind of working will be there. So there will be, kind of a full-time resource that we'll have, or we'll have a crowdsourced talent, or people would work in multiple organizations. We have even heard about moonlighting, and it is now becoming legal. So I don't know. I mean, when I visualize, I see a lot of disruption, lot of changes happening in many.
Fantastic, fantastic. Thank you so much. I'll come to you, Amla. Wow. So I think very interesting. Thank you so much, panelists. It is important to know the world that we're living in and the world around us. Like Sir said, we don't know what is going to happen, but looking at these trends, looking at these challenges, we can be prepared at least a little bit for that. We took a little time on the first and setting up the context also. So I'm going to merge the next 2 points. Yeah, the next 2 points. One speaks about with these realities, and by the way, you can pen down your thoughts. For instance, there's still a lot of things that we did not cover in this first topic, right? We did not, for instance, one thing that was coming into my mind was the neighbors within for India. Maybe you can get a little bit deeper understanding in a Q&A session about what's happening, like you mentioned, in Bangladesh, in Sri Lanka. uh, you know Kaushik mentioned about Ukraine, of course, being a largest ceramic industry. Sir mentioned about Taiwan being a major semiconductor industry. So a lot of these are impacting the way we do business, right? And maybe we can talk about it later in the Q&A session. Right now, what we're going to talk about is how organizations now, with some of these uncertainties or realities that we're aware of, how do you think organizations of the future will be structured, right? How will and hence how will you feel the leaders need to be prepared, considering I'm going to merge the second question also, which speaks about how is AI and how is technology going to impact in the future as well. So if you can put together your thoughts around, one, how do you see the technology evolving in your own sectors? And hence, how do you think your organizations will be structured, let's say by the year 2030? And in that space, how do you think a leader should be like? What would be certain X factors of a leader, of these leaders who will eventually be leading at that time, right? We have limited time. I would request maybe this one to be 2 to 5 minutes per person to sum it up. Amla, Dolly, I'm going to give it to her because you had some earlier thought also.
So I'll merge with the previous one and the current one together, considering time and everything. What Sir said is absolutely right. That he has seen the journey of from a typewriter to an electronic typewriter to a computer. We have seen the journey. When I come from a fashion apparel industry, I'll be honest, I really used to love to go to stores and pick and choose the product to buy. And if you ask me today, post COVID, I would be more comfortable doing it online because it's easy. And trust you me, I'm more comfortable doing an Insta buying because one, that you get uniqueness out there. There is a difference. All of us come that I don't want to see what I'm wearing, someone else is wearing. And also would want to see as what is the latest trend which is going on, right? Uh, Not necessarily that everyone fits and suits you well, but that's a transition of thought process that is there in each one of us. If you do not adapt, you are gone back. Yeah. Coming on to your point, Rahul, what you said as how would technology be more resourceful, and what are the challenges that may come up for the leadership, or as how the structures or organization will look like. I'll give it real time examples to all of you than some quotes. We in fashion industry, we choose products, right? When you go to a mall or you go to a retail store, you pick up a product, you go to a changing room, you try it out, It's a time that you're investing. You will pick up for 3, 4 products and you will come out buying maybe probably one. Do we really have that much of time that we want to go invest and there is a long queue that's happening? Now there is a transition as how technology plays a part. Many of the stores, many of the places, you will see a technology wherein you can see yourself in that view as how would you look like in that product? How would this cloth look like? You really don't have to go in a changing room and change that, whether that color, whether that print or that design or that pattern suits you well, is when you pick up and you say, okay, fine, now I want to go ahead. So that's how a technology plays a very important role. If you see the digital ads which are there trending pretty much, earlier the ads were more human driven, people talking about emotions, touching the lives, speaking about the product reality. Today, if you see, AI has played a very pivotal role in that, right? You have humans in the face of technology who are giving you different way of advertisements to any product that you see, and these advertisements are very lucrative one. If you follow some brands, I mean they are world class apart in the advertisements that you do. I mean you will see suddenly a 3D effect coming onto it, you will see the humanness, you will see the emotion side of it, but that's what technology is all about. Why it is important and trending so much right now? If you see, earlier it was Google. Yeah, you want to find, read something, what is happening across the world, what is new that is happening. Or there was another way that you have a circle around from where you can gather information, thoughts and ideas, and then put it across to any of it. Try and explore it into AI. You will have multiple ways from from your life, if I have to talk about, as how the CV should be made, how you should present in terms of giving interviews to any of the organizations. Or let's say, even if you have to make your presentations more powerful, this AI will definitely help you with many thoughts and ideas coming onto it. The flip side of it is, yes, somewhere the creativity of an individual brainchild is somewhere getting over hyped in terms of the technology, but it is how that what powerful method that you're trying to use it. So I find it very important, and that's how I have also started investing my own time in terms of putting my thoughts and ideas and see as what is AI helping in terms of any facet of life. The other is in terms of the challenges, as how the structures, leaders would be. Yes, of course, there is a change from the earlier way of deriving the work, the organization thought process, visioning. Now it has changed quite a lot. Every organization is taking a conscious steps in terms of investing in people, bringing the right choice out there in the right roles and responsibilities. You may not have now, let's say earlier, for example, there will be a 20 people required to do one kind of role and responsibility because it's a mundane kind of work. But how much will you be able to give growth to those people? Only maybe 1% out of the whole lot. So what is that? That can reduce from a technology, portion of it can be done, and the rest of it is reducing the team size. Now, reducing a team size doesn't say that the opportunities have gone completely. The opportunities have evolved in many other ways of it. So you will get an opportunity in some or the other way in terms of as what is the skill that you're carrying. So I think it's about the kind of adaptability, what is trending right now, what is required, relevant right at the time is more important to me. Thank you.
Dolly, sorry, I'll just come to you. Yeah, go ahead, please.
Back to what Amla was saying, I think, as an AI to our industry, I think, talking about telecom, I think it's a given that AI is a part of telecom itself. It's part of technology. 5G infrastructure itself is a technology based. Now we're talking about 6G research. I don't know how many of you attended India Mobile Conference, which happens in October. It happened last year as well. It is happening to this year as well in October. If you attend that India Mobile Congress, you will see companies like Ericsson and all have actually broadcasted 6G last year itself. They are working on 6G models itself. They're talking about IoT. They're talking about too many things in the technology space itself, which has a network differentiation for India. And we have a large scale because we have, I think, billion of population here. The kind of infrastructure space for a telecom which is required for the technology setup is humongous. I think a lot of opportunities for telecom sector itself because that's what you are connected with. Your mobile currently is also connected with Wi-Fi. You only have a personal hotspot. You have everything with you. So the kind of technology which has changed, coming from your WordStar to the laptops, to the mobile itself, the kind of mobiles which are coming nowadays, too much of advancement of technology. The 5G, 6G, IoT, I mean, if we talk about all these things, the whole infra space of telecom is going to boom with opportunities in the next 5 years, the way I see it. However, the challenges for the business and HR lies actually in the enhanced capability, lies in the skills. So we may not have those skills. I don't know how many of us would know the skills of, how AI would work. The whole idea, the whole learning and development piece in the human resources, talking about skill enhancement, getting into the model where we can be useful to the organization with the new business challenges coming in. So it's as a HR, it's all about upgradation of your teams to a upskilling of your teams to ensure that we are able to meet the business challenges itself. Because the way the business would be impacted would be different because we're talking about data analytics, we're talking about predictive analysis. We talk about too many things which we are currently not doing. As you said, 20 people doing one job. It may not be required if you have predictive analysis, you have a Power BI tool working for you. So you can actually manage your data pretty well. Data management centers, that's what data centers have been created. The in thing in the new industry is data centers. Data centers are all of data management systems. So I think the whole impact would be very different. I don't even know whether we can foresee all that impact, but as a leader, definitely some of it moving a bit to the leadership skill definitely needed is agility, adaptability, the resilience. So these three are definitely core to a leader. Apart from that, there are other skills which talk about change management or whatever you want to talk about. They're all the skills which are there. And that sustainability, they all need to be there. But if you're not agile, you're not able to understand the business challenge and take a step forward, that would be the failure for the whole HR system itself. The adaptability, thinking on toes, helping the business or the employees to adapt to the new skill set. I mean, that's the kind of thing which is needed. Apart from what we are doing, so sustenance would be the core. I mean, I'm not saying the whole company would move out, but new roles would get added, new opportunities would get added. So in terms of working with AI, you will have new options. The Power BI is a big, your Power BI anyway gives data analytics. That all will help you in terms of how to move forward in your own space, looking at your competition. So everyone will have their own competition and the own space to look at. So to my mind, this is what works. I mean, it's just a gist, but quick ones were these.
Perfect. Thanks. Kaushik, I'm just going to come to you. Deepak, while you call it out, maybe for the, for the students here, you were mentioning a few skills that are required. After your answer, if you can also talk about what will be relevant for them as well. Like she mentioned agility, adaptability, etc. Yeah.
Thanks, Rahul. Yeah, so when, since I come from a technology company, technology is what we deal with day in and day out. And it's not just AI that we talk about. I mean, mostly we're talking about Gen AI. But it's also a lot of other stuff, AR, VR, augmented reality, virtual reality, even quantum computing that everybody's now talking about, right? So the whole point is that technology is evolving really fast. And hence, the most important quality that any leader for the future would need is what we call learning agility. You'll have to be extremely adaptive and learn quickly. So that I think is one big thing, not just in the technology industry, but across industries. You'll need to spot the trends early adapt to those trends quickly and learn from those. And I think that's one thing, and that's the only way you can deal with skill obsolescence. You can deal with also the frequent mini black swan events that are happening in this world. And that's the only way to adapt very quickly. In fact, I was reading a World Economic Forum report where they've done a beautiful research on the future of work. And I'd recommend all of you read that. It came out in 23. But it really talks about 2 or 3 very important things. You know, how jobs will evolve, which jobs will no longer exist a few years from now, and also trends in terms of which jobs which will be required. And clearly data is one of the big things that will be there. The amount of data we are generating is humongous, right? Every day, everybody is connected on the internet. Everybody is doing transactions. There is loads and loads of data that's available, and somebody is using that data to draw insights and get their business from that, right? So data is going to be an extremely important skill. How do you make sense of data? Second is, like I said, learning agility. The third is that despite all of this technology, and technology is all pervasive today, there is still a need for leaders to have empathy. And I think that will be a big superpower. The leaders who have empathy in the future will be able to connect with their customers better, will be able to connect with their teams better, and will be able to understand. And separate empathy from sympathy, right? I'm not talking about sympathy, right? So please understand that'll be an important skill for you to build. And the third thing is, with so much of noise in the system that you will come across, the ability to hear and listen, not hear, but listen, is going to be very, very important. And to really get to the heart of the matter rather than beat about the bush. People who will be able to do that faster, who will be able to separate the noise from the real meat, will be leaders who will be able to get better insights much faster than the others, and will be able to go and disrupt the business much, much faster, right? So I think these are 3 things that are really emerging. The final thing is that, you know, our ability to connect with people, despite all of this, right? Despite us having, virtual reality and, and I'm sure people are now thinking about integrating video conferencing with virtual reality and so on and so forth, right? So it's going to be almost a real life experience for people to do virtually, right? And on top of all of that, if you add generative AI, you will be able to also read facial expressions and understand what your customers are really thinking. They may be voicing something, but they may be thinking something really different. And a lot of those signals you will be able to catch in that video conference, which is enabled by virtual reality and all of that. So I'm just saying this is mind-boggling, right? As we think more and more, and if we have quantum computing, all of this goes out of the window, because the world after quantum computing is. So what I'm saying is that you can't catch the pace of change. The only thing you can do is to adapt faster. And that's where I think all of you, I mean, we are seeing so much change and at such a rapid pace at our age, even now, and we are finding it tough to kind of catch up, right? You guys will have this multiplied 3x, right? In terms of the pace. So that's very, very important. And those are skills you'll have to really build. But I recommend you read the World Economic Forum Future of Work report. It talks about a lot of, and people think that, AI and all that would lead to only blue collar jobs or repetitive jobs going out of work. But that's not true. A lot of white collar jobs might also go out of this thing. For example, accountants. Today, a AI enabled or a Gen AI enabled spreadsheet can pretty much get you all the insights, right? And draw your P&L statement. So it's not funny, right? A lot of things that we think are people who are very specialized, those people may not really be needed to do that. So what's the big thing, right? If you read that report, you'll understand that the problem really is not, it's not a job crisis that it will create. It's a skill crisis it will create. Only people who don't adapt to that technology and understand and pick up those new emerging jobs will be out of job. So it's like the analogy, I mean, all of you are much younger, but in the 80s and 90s, there were a lot of bank strikes happening because of computerization. Because a lot of people thought they'd lose their jobs if computerization happens. Today, even PSU banks are working on core banking solutions, right? When railways started, a lot of people who used to run Tongas thought that they will be out of job, right? So they were protesting against railways to be introduced. But world has moved on, right? They picked up new skills. So that's what is going to happen. So, I'm saying that these are a few things that I had at the top of my mind. Rahul, unfortunately, I'll have to leave. I have a meeting to catch, but thanks a lot for the opportunity. And I hope this helped.
Thank you, Deepak. Thank you so much. Thanks. We'll just give Deepak a minute to, yeah. Thanks for bringing up, will AI replace jobs, Deepak? Thanks. Yeah. So let's do one thing. I'm sure you all also had some points, but let's bring it up to a Q&A now, if you're okay. Or you have another point to make? I was hoping let's just do a Q&A session now. You have another point? You have one point? Why don't you go ahead? So we'll have Musarat sir with the last, and you could summarize this as well, sir. And after that, we'll move into a Q&A.
Basically, we had two questions here. One is impact of AI and all those business, and then we was talking about the other question, which is what kind of leadership we require.
That's right. That's right.
Take care of the AI and all those in the next. So let me just quickly sum it up. Basically, AI already people have said how it is disrupting, and same is with our kind of industry where we operate on industry 4.0 concept, which will move to industry 5.0. So these are nothing but automation, robotics. Now with AI, ML, IoT, you name it and it is there. To the extent that one quick question I'll have, a car typically has 18 to 20,000. These are assembled and then taken out as a car from the assembly line. So rolling out time, one car after another, how much time it takes to roll out a car? Anybody engineer here can talk about it? Yes, tell me. It takes few seconds. Okay, 2,000 components. Please, batao bhai. I'm asking to keep you awake. A car has 20,000 components and there is a rolling out time or a tag time, one car after another, like you see in bottling plant, no? One Coca-Cola. So you see that assembly line. Car also has a assembly line. तो एक गाड़ी के बाद दूसरी गाड़ी कितने देर में बन के निकलती है? There is no negative mark for this question. This is not a test. You can have a wild test. Anybody, please quick, time नहीं है हमारे पास.
Be a little loud.
20 to 30 minutes, okay. तो 30 minutes में अगर एक गाड़ी बनाएंगे तो एक घंटे में कितनी बनाएंगे? दो गाड़ी, 8 घंटे में. So we make 1,75,000 car a day. Sorry, a month. So you can calculate around 7,000 a day. So yeah, तो 30 minute पे तो नहीं बना पाएंगे. So somebody was saying in seconds, which is right to conclude. We roll out a car every 12 seconds. So 12 seconds में एक गाड़ी बनती है अभी. 30, 20, 40, AI, more disruption. What do you think going to happen? Much more challenge, much more efficiency. So it's unthinkable, human machine collaboration, robotics. I don't know क्या क्या होगा मुझे नहीं पता. Human भी robots बन जाएंगे. Anyway, challenge is that the technological shifts will keep on happening. But the biggest challenge is the mindset shift, societal shifts. So how do you manage that trend? A big, 7 year, 10 year, 15 year down the line. So rightly, what was talking about and certain qualities that we need. And during pandemic, a research was done by a lot of Ivy League colleges where they were talking about what competencies people need, what kind of leadership skills people will need going forward in this kind of workplace disruption as per the World Economic Forum. So he's right. Resilience and empathy anyways become very critical in today's uh, work setup. Resilience and empathy, that is what kind of perseverance people have is required. So people like you will need to develop more on perseverance. And another thing is that digital dexterity, which is how tech savvy you are, what kind of non-linear thinking you have, that needs to be developed. You have a powerful computer in your hand, which is your mobile. What percentage you think you are exploiting today? You have any guess? This powerful computer, how much you are using? What percentage? 20%? 30%? मैं तो 5 भी नहीं करता हूँ मैं. We have to catch up. World is going to shift like anything. So we need to catch up. And digitally awareness होनी चाहिए. Government of India banned 30 Chinese apps. 3-4 साल पहले किया था. 30 में 30 जो मुझे बता देगा, अभी मैं PPO आपको प्लेसमेंट का ऑफर देता हूँ. 30 में 30 अभी बता दो. कोई है तो बता दो. 25 बता दो, 20 बता दो. आई एम टेलिंग बता पाते हैं लोग, 5 नहीं बता पाते हैं. बट आई ओनली नो वन. बट देयर आर इंटेलिजेंट गाइज आई हैव सीन जो 4-5 को बताई है. सो आई एम टेलिंग यू प्लीज increase your awareness. Third thing which is very important, and we talked about leadership. So of course leadership में बहुत काम हो रहे हैं, but today the workplace has changed. We are now hybrid. Even manufacturing is hybrid now. So that's the mainstay. I tell them to have any question to ask. They say, sir, how many days we can work from home? That's the difficult question they ask. So you can imagine that this hybrid working will be the mainstay. So what you need today is not typical leadership qualities, but connected leadership qualities. So where you don't see your people, they are not working in, your office, they are on networks. So how do you motivate them? How do you actually make yourself accessible? So all this becomes very important. So our leadership development, we have changed gears. So we are developing our people to manage people who are working in things very quickly. I'll sit we are short of time. One is frugal mindset. Today, how you can work in constraint? How can you do more with less? This is the qualities we require from people who are going to come in. We don't have the luxury of too much like, yesteryears. You have to always work in constraint. So are you ready to work in constraint? That is one of the kind of competencies, skills which will be required from new generation. More very quickly, we heard about cognitive behaviors, but we are now talking about cognitive flexibility. How to adapt effectively in any given situation, how you are going to adapt effectively and how to let go of the past belief. So means what got you here will not take you there. So you have to continuously innovate, continuously, think of different way, because the market, the company, the product, everything is going to change very fast. How fast you change is important. So that mindset is required by all the people who are going to lead the organization. And last, which is also very important, is called pragmatic orientation. It is very important. New capability which is required is how you can act fast and iterate faster, turnaround time, shorter cycle time is there, and how you can be resourceful. So people want talent who are resourceful, who can act fast, who can iterate faster, So all these are qualities which the new generation has to actually develop. We worked only on, things like innovation, creativity, things like result orientation, trustworthiness. These are patent competencies which every organization has, and they work around these competencies. And this is their leadership framework. But today, our competencies are becoming mainstay because you have to think differently. So you need to develop this kind of mindset. So this is what comes to my mind. And I think
So I just want to add to some of the examples that it took and some of the traits, because I think it's important to really understand what are the leadership traits for future. I think that's one of the key elements that you're looking at. Uh, we mentioned about adaptability, agility. We spoke about innovation. And so, for example, automobile industry, that was an example, which really strongly came up. And we spoke about the assembly line. Now, actually, automobile industry is the one. And do you know which is the car which actually gave it, which is Model T by Ford, right? Now, which is the biggest brand which adapted the assembly line and became a bigger brand than the automobile industry? Bigger brand than the automobile industry is actually McDonald's. Okay, I mean, the point is that, the burger is actually made, through the assembly line process. That's the first adaptability, and they actually created a much bigger brand than most of the automobile companies. Now, again, I want to structure this, just take few examples. Automobile industry. Now, what is the future of the automobile industry? What is the future car people are talking about? The driverless car, right? Which is Tesla. Now, Tesla didn't exist. I mean, in some form it existed, but in the true sense of word, till about 6-7 years back, we've not even heard of it, right? Do you know what is the future in the latest auto, what is the future brand of car people are talking of? I mean, what has been showcased last year as the future of the automobile industry in terms of a brand is the Apple car. Okay. Now, second is quickly, and why I'm trying to take this example is, we also spoke about innovation, right? There was a conversation around how typewriters gave rise to desktops, which is the most well-known creative desktop company that came in ever. I mean, which is really known for its design of the desktop and, the way they actually revolutionized the way desktop was ever looked at from typewriter to is the Apple desktop. It was a desktop company. Today, we took out the mobile phone, we gave some example. The smartphone was actually, in the true sense of word, is Apple which brought in the smartphone, right? Today, if Uber exists, today is the Airbnb exists, some of the largest network, the biggest cab network, the biggest, you call it the hotel network or whatever, the hospitality network. If the Apple phone would have not come in, none of this brand would have come in. Okay, that's the reality, right? What is the highest selling watches today in the world? The Apple watches, right? And just remember the future of two industry today, the clock industry or the watch industry, as well as automobile industry also now, people are talking about the brand Apple. And imagine it was actually a desktop company. We're not even talking of iPhone, which has given birth to this Uber and the Airbnbs of the world. So that is what the future has to look like. You need to adapt, you need to innovate, you need to look into these changes, and remember, the changes are always going to come from outside. Apple are hitting two industries to which they don't even belong. Now, how many of you know most of us use this small little white thing that is there, which is the AirPods, right? What is the size of the AirPod as a brand in terms of revenue that it gives? Imagine. 6 years back, AirPod didn't exist. $15 billion. AirPod has given $15 billion to Apple. And today we are talking of 1 trillion, the first $1 trillion organization is likely to be Apple. And there's a reason why it is. It is all these innovations, all this adaptability they brought in to the changing times. Just one more example that I'll take in terms of leadership since it's there. But in this whole scenario that we talk of Apple, you also look at, when you look at the leaders around the world, I mean, we are talking of business leaders simply because we are in a business school. Now, one person who has been there in the top 3 richest men in the world for last 25 years, who is that guy? Come what may, he has been there in that list of top. It's Bill Gates. Yeah. People don't realize Microsoft as a brand also has survived all this onslaught of all kinds. Do you know who is the guy? People spoke about empathy. Okay, who is the person who saved Apple? There is a story, and many of you, I'm sure, Steve Jobs was thrown out of the company, and then he came back and took over Apple and things like that. Pixar and all this thing happened. I'll not go into the details of it, but he realized that only Apple was left with only 2 months of salaries. Now, he was most critical of Microsoft always. He used to speak about Microsoft with a lot of disdain always. But the first person that he could think of to reach out was Bill Gates. It is he who actually funded Apple. Apple would have not been Apple if Bill Gates would have not funded it. And a lot of people don't even know this story. He has never even probably, gone out and spoke about it too much. But what is important for you is also to see these are 2 leaders. What are their traits? He has reinvented himself so many times. Today, I think the Gates Foundation is the bigger thing. People are talking about the fact, conspiracy theories, of course, that probably COVID happened because of him. There is a lot of those conspiracy theories if you have read about it. Now, but the question is not that. The question is this man has has been relevant, and he has adapted. He has been in the reckoning of the top 3 richest men, a person who has started completely on his own and has been there right for last more than 2 decades. Now, one of the key elements, which is, I just want to leave that with it, is that he's even today, he reads at least 1 book in every 15 days. Okay, that's one of his key things. And if you really want to be a great leader, just read the books that he reads. And if you've ever been to billgates.com, every 10 days, he gives the synopsis of the latest book that he has read. You can actually read it. That will actually give an insight into the books that he's reading. I'm just giving an example of that. This is the way as future leaders, you need to adapt and need to be aware of this changing times and reinvent yourself, because in your world, with this, all the technological changes, I don't want to get into, the nitty-gritty of AI, all of you are reading enough. But what will be important is that you will have to, the world is reinventing itself too many times and too quickly. As individuals, as future leaders, if you don't reinvent yourself, in this world, you will not be able to survive. So remember that the reinvention, that constant process is very important. And these are the people who have been where they are because they have been able to reinvent themselves and the organization and the work they were doing. And the same thing is expected from you as future leaders to be able to do it. So I just want to, end it with that.
Thank you. Thank you, Kaushik. Students, if we could have a hand for all of our panelists, I think they've given a lot of thoughts here. Do we have the mic in the, yeah, I know we are out of time a little bit, but we can take a few questions. Yeah, we had accounted for that. So I hope we can stay back. Yeah.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, ma'am. This is Abhijit Chaturvedi from PGDM Finance, second year. I have a couple of points to make before I come to my question. During 2016 to 2020, there was a trade war which was going on between US and China, in which there were sanctions and counter sanctions being put in by both the 2 giants. Coming to the second aspect was that, like, for example, in the defense sector, if any country used to purchase the S-400 Russian defense system, the US government used to put sanctions, that is CATSA, that is countering American adversaries through sanctions act. So for example, as we are moving into a bipolar world, which has been continuously evolving. And with the emergence of the US elections, they are approaching. So if we are moving into that particular situation and India being walking a tightrope diplomatically, so what are the challenges in that particular scenario, and how the Indian business giants and how the companies are going to navigate these diplomatical and geopolitical challenges, considering the volume of trade of India from US and China?
Are you speaking of the Indian stand, or how do we?
Yes, sir. Indian stand, the Indian companies, how are the leaderships going to evolve in this particular landscape?
Oh, thanks. What's your name? Abhijit. Thanks, Abhijit. See, Abhijit, while we're not economists, but we'll try to answer this question as much as we can. Maybe I'll give it a shot to start off with. Um, See, India in general is not the India which it was 10 years back. Yeah. India is one of the fastest growing economies in the world. It has a lot of scope in the future. The relations between India and the US have grown significantly because there's a lot happening. Someone mentioned US-China conflict. You, of course, mentioned that as well. It's been going on for a while. India is possibly the biggest ally that US has right now against China. US is investing a lot of time, effort in building a very strong alliance with India in the future. So India is going to grow from this partnership as well, is what I have a good sense of. But so for me, India will be viewed by US, if that is the question of how it will affect India, very positively. That's my view. Anyone wants to add here?
Yeah, I think I agree with you. And the example that you took, India has behaved very differently, if you see, in last few years. It has not really aligned with one partner. Okay, I mean, the biggest, this whole Ukraine Russia war, the way the alignment happened with Russia, and then of course from a business perspective, the way you reached out to US didn't utter a single word, in spite of the fact that India was one of those three countries which actually openly aligned with Russia to a very large extent. And now if you see the recent footages, Mr. Modi was there with Ukraine and showing all the sympathetic faces, both are crying together. I mean, these are elements of diplomacy, these are elements of alignment and de-alignment that we have never seen before. The fact remains, the world, which is constantly, as all the examples that it took, the dependency of China is huge. Everybody knows that it's a country which has its own level of uncertainty and I mean, it's not a stable country in many ways. It's a dictatorship. It's a dictatorship by all standards. Now, everybody wants to align with a democracy. The biggest democracy and the emerging economy today, happens to be India. So the balance has to happen. Is India, taking the right steps? Are the behavioral traits currently, that is being shown or reflected by India shows that strength? I personally feel that yes, it is. And if the right kind of, I think two things which is very important at this point of time. One is land reforms. The other is labor reforms. If these two are done in the right direction, it's not easy in a democracy many a time, some of these decisions. Then as a nation, we are going to fly like anything. Okay, I mean, the other thing is, you talk about we being the top 3, top 4 economy, whatever, but the fact remains that it's a long journey to be a developed nation. A lot of people, us, don't even talk that language. And do you know how many developed nations are there? I mean, I'm just again quiz questions in the world. There are around 38, 39 by standards, which is the next one which is coming up and likely to be the next developed country. It's Poland. Okay. India is nowhere close to that in terms of per capita income. Okay, it's the population and the purchasing power which is driving our economy. So there's a lot in terms of the journey that we want to, undertake this, what is that, 2047 vision of Vikasit Bharat and all of it. It calls for a huge amount of step, because what we're talking about 2047 is being a developed country. Okay, that calls for a very different levels of action, different level of alignment and de-alignment, But yes, I think a lot of those steps, strong steps have been taken by the country, by the economy, and by the government of the day. And we will see the right results, of course.
Just want to add one thing to it. I think whatever being said, you should also remember that India is doing a lot for Make in India concept, which was launched by the government. I think Make in India is a big thing. And I think if you look at the manufacturing sector itself, I think there is a clear boom. It was almost like a sector which had gone. And suddenly it has come back with Make in India. I don't know whether you know, but a lot of Indian regulations itself, at least I know of telecom regulatory, this thing, wherein they are saying specifically all the installations which we do, whatever DAS, whatever thing we use for the connectivity have to be Make in India. So the kind of pressure the government is also putting on the corporates to use Make in India and not a China-led thing, which is very commonly available, easily available, money-wise, supply chain-wise, it's much easier. However, the focus is also on Make in India, which will also have your growth opportunities coming. I think I just wanted to add to what was being said in terms of a very minuscule example of what the government or what India is doing for the growth and will be poised for it actually. We may not be a developed country so far, but I think the growth itself will see a spurt, I think, in India itself. That's how I foresee it personally.
See, let me tell you, even during the Cold War, India was non-aligned, right? So it did not come into that. Rather, India was leading the non-aligned movement. So we have seen worse time. Then, if I talk about when India actually detonated the nuclear bomb, there were hundreds of sanctions put on India. Twice, it came out of that. There was problem, but it came out of that. Then, very recent, 2007-8, when there was a US subprime crisis, Lehman crashed and the whole world crashed. The Indian banking system was sound. So India has sound fundamentals. In fact, our banking system did not crash. So I don't see, in any emerging scenario, which is going to impact India. India, has rightly been said, it's a economy which is, it's slow, but it is growing steadily, and I don't foresee any challenge. What we have seen in the last 30, 40, 50 years. This is what comes to mind. Why all of us will answer? Yeah.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, ma'am. I'm Krishika from the GDM core. My question is, as rightly discussed by sir, that organizations are going hybrid. So there is a like very difficult thing to analyze what are the like what is going on in employees' mind, whether they will be seeking more better opportunities also. So how do you prioritize their well-being and the like? How will you maintain their retention?
No, let me answer this. Let me answer this. See, today, when we are talking about AI, we are reading the minds of people through chatbot. And, the youngsters are very happy chatting with the chatbot, but we know the pulse. So we have predictive analytics also, what's happening in the minds of people. And companies today are reinventing themselves in terms of how to, read the minds of people, open houses and engagement surveys, and many other skip level interview or meetings, coffee with HR. All this existed and companies are doing, but the use of AI is phenomenal. So the chat bot is very tricky, and very smart also. So we have a chat bot, Maruti, called Chika. So Chika can take care of all your queries and everything, but then there is Amber, which is actually reading your mind. So what companies are trying to do is reinvent themselves in terms of people practices. So let me just give you Maruti for decades had been a 6-day working company, but we kept on hearing from people that, we want work-life balance. They will not say 5-day week. We want this, we want that. And to the extent, even in the exit interviews, they started saying that, there is too much of work pressure. We want, something for ourselves. and the company had to reinvent, in the sense a manufacturing company where every second counts. We had to switch over from 6 day to 5 day week, and that is now good 8, 9 years back. But then, similar to that, for example, there is a kind of thing that, only in manufacturing, people are required at the shop floor. But there are other functions which can work very much better uh, in a hybrid mode. So you have to understand those. Then there are newer practices and policies which are, money is not the biggest motivator, let me tell you. People look for culture, people look for kind of career growth opportunities, learning, what kind of learning curve they have in the organization. So companies are doing their bit. Every company, because losing a person is a bigger loss, because, when you rehire somebody, you have to train, you have to spend time on making them productive. So retention or engagement becomes one of the key job of HR in any companies. Their first job is not to only look at hiring people, but you have to hire the right people, create the right fit, create happy managers. If you have happy employees, happy manager who can create happy employees, you can have happy customer. So there is a connotation, happy employees creates happy customer, and they in turn create the shareholder value creation or EBITDA or profitability, whatever you may call, because business runs because of that. So if you are able to manage your enablers, if you are managing it rightly, you will get the good results. So HR has plays a very big role in the business itself, right? So don't worry about that. So we have now AI. So we are using that and continue to use that. So I hope I have answered you.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Charvi and I'm from PGDM Core. So, yeah, so my query is that it is said that AI is not going to replace your job, but a person who knows AI will. But on contrary, there are many studies that claim that it's affecting the critical thinking and strategic thinking of an individual. So, in this contradicting environment, how do we adapt to AI and to what extent?
So, I'll first would want to add a little point to your question, Aditi, right?
Rishika.
Krishika. So, as I said, AI tool itself is a little predictive analysis that is being done in terms of any kind of attrition that is probably going to come. Attrition is just one method probably. More important is the disengaged employee, right? What organizations can do, which you talked about a mental wellness, because that creates a little boredom, and that's how they would want to focus on a 5 day working. But I think it's not just a 5 day working, but it is also, do I have that liberty that today can I be at home and work, right? At many technical organizations, there are work days or some technical tools which are pretty available, which talks about the productivity, which is more important. So we as people or HR has no offense around for people who can work from home, but point is about how do we tabulate it into the productivity that we're looking at. A. B is about there can be various programs that can be done by the organization into mental awareness, wellness, everything. But as I said in my earlier point, everything lies within you, the self. The moment you start thinking it positively, I think any challenge that you're facing right now can be not an hurdle for you, but that can become a way to find out as how we can achieve that aspect. What leads to this boredom or a stress, which is like too much right now in the younger generation, if I talk about, is the routine of the work, routine job, or what is that newness which is missing onto it. So whether the racy matrix is clear, whether the roles and responsibilities which is given to an individual is clear and is being delivered, that is more important for a person to decide on whether I want a 5 day working or I want a little liberty to be at home. And that motivator is still there, because today also, if I talk about, I still have that zeal to come back to office and be in the office and be working on to it, because human interaction is much more important. Be around people, with people is more important. To what you have asked, that the creativity of the mindset should not die at all. So tool is a lever to enhance your skill. It doesn't stop your creativity to be uh, implemented, to be invented, and then to showcase it. No matter the tool is giving a write up to you, but I'm 100% sure all of us try and put at least 10 new things to what an AI is giving as an example to us. There are still learnings. Today, if you talk about any one of us, all the colleagues that we are sitting here, none of us have given anything which we might not have implemented, but everything that we would have gone through in our day-to-day lives, and that we are doing it with all our people. So I think tool is just an enabler. It will not let your mindset die down in thinking of an creativity aspect, right? You take fine arts, art, right? Art is thinking, is creativity. But if you talk about a tool enhancement, it will definitely help you that how beautifully it can be done, and what is probably what is trending outside, or what is the consumer need, that is more important, and that I can present it ahead. So that is what the positive side is of the tool. Yeah. Thank you.
Just to add to your question, actually, so it's all about, so AI is a good tool, right? So it's all about getting your answers from it. I think everyone uses it. I think it's a very typical thing. You even have it in your apps. So getting the answer is fine, but how you customize that answer will require a thinking, right? It's not a cut, copy, paste, right? If you do a cut, copy, paste, you have a larger issue. That means you're doing it all wrong. Taking an idea is fine, but customizing that idea to what is needed is important, and that will require your critical thinking. So it may still go hand in hand actually. Uh, but the person has to be very clear of what is expected, because AI will give you 10 things, but do you require those 10? You need to do customization of your own. What is the end objective? So if you know the end objective, you can customize your thoughts. And it's not about, it's always good to get an idea and get an enabler, because it's an enabling tool. So you can always get some ideas, but don't just cut, copy, paste. It will not help. Rather, people generally realize if you do a chat GPT letter and an email, you send it to somebody as a recruiter as well, you can clearly make out that the language being sent, it's a very disconnected language. I mean, I don't know how many of you use chat GPT, but it's a very disconnected language when you read the emails. How you connect that language to the recruiter is important. I mean, I'm just being very basic, but this is very important, because you can clearly make out a draft coming out from a chatbot. I mean, chat GPT kind of a format. So how you customize it, make it a little more personal, then send it across. I think it's always good. Customization, reinventing the wheels has always been an in thing in the industry itself. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you again. Hope you had a nice, got a few great insights. Thank you for having us here.
Thank you to all the panelists for such an insightful discussion. I would now like to call upon Ms. Shilpi Jain, Dean Corporate Relations, for the memento to our esteemed speakers.